Welcome, everybody. We are blessed today to have Marion Gilbert share her wisdom with us. I was honored to have a session with Marion towards the end of last year and was so impacted by the power of what I experienced that I immediately asked Marion if she'd be willing to come and chat to our community. So very grateful, Marion. Thank you. By way of introduction, Marion's been practicing physical therapy for more than 40 years. She's the owner and president of Spring Hill Physical Therapy and Still Point Studios in Grass Valley, California, where she is currently, and it's just after 6 a.m. She received her degree from Arnhemse Opleiding for Physiotherapy in her home country of Holland in 1978. Her primary focus is on manual therapy and trauma resolution therapy, which she combines with acupressure, craniosacral therapy, myofascial release, somato-emotional release, breathing, and relaxation techniques. Marion has applied the Enneagram personally and professionally since 2003. She's a certified narrative Enneagram teacher and adjunct faculty member of the Narrative Enneagram and teaches Enneagram classes to a global audience online in Grass Valley and Nevada City and throughout the Yuba River Enneagram community. Her emphasis is on integrating her vast somatic experience as an avenue of personal transformation and for developing three-centered awareness as a platform for spiritual awakening. When I send out the link for the recording, I will send out Marion's website as well as any resources, Marion, that you'd like to share with our group. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Marion. Thank you.
Good. It's a little bit of an outdated one. I see the one that you got because I don't do the local stuff so much anymore. I'm teaching more in somewhere in the local, as in the United States, but I'm traveling a lot, including Egypt and Spain and Ireland and Denmark and so on. Anyway, it's been fun to come back to Europe, and I enjoy it very much since that's where my roots are, as well as being in the US, although currently with our political climate, it's not really fun to be here. But hopefully we will right the ship at some point and come back to our senses. So what I would like to share with you is probably best to be accompanied by a small PowerPoint that I want to share so that you can get the principles, about this. So the principles of the trauma resolution therapy of Peter Levine that I actually was lucky to get before his whole school was actually formed, created a total change of however I understood my own humanness and my own integration with my spiritual life that until then had were sort of separated. That brought it together for me, and I was extremely grateful for that. So let's see if I can share my screen. Let's go here. All right, there we are. So in my view, the discovery that I had when I took the narrative training in 2005 and the lovely, what we refer to as the symbol of the Frosty, which is the snowman with the three circles vertically representing the three centers that are vertically stacked in the body. And they're kind of also semi-vertically stacked in the brain, that I understood that I had the information from my own training as a physical therapist, as well as always being interested in how the body is working in connection with the psychological and spiritual experiences that I had. And I all of a sudden saw that there was a missing piece to personality type. And that missing piece was the body center, as they had all this language about the psychological structure being the mental, with the categories of perception here, as well as the emotional. And in the bottom circle, the only words that were there was instincts and subtypes.
Marion, sorry to interrupt. We're seeing the opening screen. I'm not sure if that's the slide that you're intending to show us. We're not seeing circles.
No, I know.
Oh,
That's
okay.
that's
Sorry.
good to come. I'm just kind of giving you the history as
Okay,
this
sorry.
story, how I got for it to be the missing piece,
Okay,
of personality. So that comes. But
okay.
when I discovered that, it was like this aha moment, like I was just being called so deeply. And I said, oh, this is something that I might have to bring. And that feeling of, oh, holy, whatever you want to say next, this is my work to do. Anyway, that whole influx of energy that came into my being set me on the path of filling in that missing piece. Yeah, because if you don't have tools here, it's very difficult to come to any kind of embodied and integrated transformation. Yeah, so here is an MRI scan, a magnetic resonant image of the brain. And you can see that there are denser areas more on the bottom and in the middle. And that brainstem, together with the reptilian part of the brain, which is the hindbrain, is the part of the brain that is organized to keep our body alive, gives us survival mechanisms, and also is, monitoring a certain amount of sense of well-being. Yeah, that needs to be within a certain, within a certain creative tension between hot and cold. So temperature needs to be within a certain range. Yeah, the ability to regulate movements, that need to happen quick or slow, or you can be at rest, or you can be, moving at full speed. And there's a range in which the body needs to operate in order to not hurt itself. Yeah. So that sense of well-being, I call that, with an expensive word, more the homeostasis of well-being. So that's all regulated by the brain stem here at the bottom, right here. And then here's the hindbrain. Yeah, so in reptiles in general, those are the parts of the brain that are present. And then when the mammals come into being, there is a limbic system that begins to form right here in the center that has a capacity to really feel and sense emotions, as the relational component in mammals is super important, because the babies are being born through the host, the mother, and then are being nurtured and protected by the mother. So that initial relationship is not just one of bonding. The bonding is a neurobiological expression and an instinct that helps the little baby, or the little, child animal, to stay connected and be safe. So being nourished and survive is dependent partially on the mother feeding the little one. Yeah, there is a limbic system that is connected to the amygdala here at the bottom, and it connects with the reptilian brain, where the reflexes are in the body, in order to save oneself, and also in order to, to get nourished. Both of those are important for our state of well-being. And then in humans, and even in certain primates, we have a certain neocortex that folds itself around the lower parts of the brain, that are not lower as in lesser, but they are just more primal. Yeah, but the neocortex is giving us some access to being able to understand what is going on and being able to, have certain access to solving certain situations that we might be in, and learn to a certain degree to stay away from certain things or to be attracted to other things. However, the neocortex in humans is the largest and the most dominant, structure in the brain. And the difference between other primates and humans is that we in the front here have a new development of a prefrontal cortex. And that prefrontal cortex distinguishes us from other mammals, even though we're all, related. And that is that the prefrontal cortex gives us a greater sense of impulse control, and also we are able to reflect on our lives, which makes us as a species, in a different situation to where we are always wanting to know what just happened, and oh, what does this mean? And is this something that I want or don't want, or the world wants or the world doesn't want? That's all sort of part of that sense of being able to reflect on ourselves and our actions and our thoughts, our emotions and our sensations. So that's quite different. Now, between the three brains, there is in the center of the brain, you can't really see that here, but there's an arc in a center part of the brain that actually connects all three brains together. Dan Siegel, uses the hand model that if you put your hand up, your forearm becomes the spinal cord. Yeah, the heel of your hand becomes the reptilian brain. If you fold your thumb in and over, that can become the limbic system. And then when you curl your fingers over is where that neocortex is. And you can sort of see that neocortex folds itself all the way around and reaches back towards the other parts of the brain. And there are connector neurons between these three brains that are actually there for the three brains to be connected. Now, when we come onto planet Earth and we go into these overwhelming situations that are hard to process and overwhelming our system, these connector neurons, they can break and they can actually not function in a proper way. That might be kind of underlying why certain types are more situated in one part of the brain or the other. Yeah. So the good news is that they have also found that with proper nourishment, and I mean just with relationships that are therapeutic, that are compassionate, that are loving, these particular connector neurons can restore themselves. So that's good news for humans, that they're not forever, disconnected. So that's in the Enneagram, the work that we're doing, and where I really feel very important to bring the understanding of all three centers, so that we understand what we have been created to be, so that we can go back to that. Yeah. So let's see if we can go into the next. So here's another more schematic way of looking at Frosty, which is the three circles, as you can kind of sort of see them. But I have kind of worked with it in the sense that we have these two vertical forces Yeah. So that doesn't mean one is contracted and one is expanded. That belongs more to the columns right on each side. But the one that actually goes from the earth upwards is the levitational force. And the one that is going downward is the gravitational force. And if you just think of those as waves, as sine waves, which is how often energy moves, and you see them intersect, then you can see the three centers appearing: the head center, the mental center, the heart center, the emotional center, and the body center, or the instinctual or physical center. And then you can see that in the belly of these sine waves that came together, the horizontal movement is being actually explained or pointed at. Yeah, from a horizontal point of view, we have the necessity to, create beliefs through the learning of the past. Yeah. And these beliefs and these contractions in the mind that have arisen, they have a function of being able for us to be alert and aware of whatever might be coming on our path. That is something that we actually experienced before. Yeah. When that mind expands and it is letting go of its contraction, the holy idea arises. Yeah. So it's also open-mindedness or mindfulness. So as far as the contraction in the heart, the passion, the vice, or the habit of emotion that, we learned from being on planet Earth that's finite, and definitely we are stretched on a space-time continuum, yeah, where we are alive in a particular moment with a past and with a future. The future hasn't arrived yet, and the past has informed us about how we're organized in the present. Yeah, so when our feelings were hurt, when we felt disconnected from another person abruptly, that created the hurt and feelings in our heart, and also the sensation of danger. If we lose the connection, we may not survive in the early stages of our development. We need a contraction in the heart to keep us from freezing and short-circuiting. Yeah. So in order to continue to function, yeah, we need to have a contracted capacity in the heart, but it also leaves our heart partially defended. When that heart begins to open, or when we move our attention to the more open state of our heart, the virtue arises. Yeah, so these two horizontal parts are on a continuum. They're the same energy. One is contracted and the other one is expanded. And then in the body, we have defensive instincts that are contractions to help us survive in the world and to have ways in which we can protect ourselves and set boundaries. And when the danger is over and it's gone, and we can relax in our bellies, the nourishing instinct will come forward, and we begin to gather food and make sure that we have enough warmth and enough clothing, and do things to help us stay in a homeostasis of well-being. Yeah, so the idea is that you see on the bottom here, that lemniscate, horizontal lemniscate of aversion and attraction. The aversive side is the contracted side in each of the three centers, and the expanded side is the attractive side. Whenever the lemniscate is being able to be perceived through the third force, making equal space for both of these parts of ourselves, the open-mindedness, the open-heartedness, compassion, and the grounded presence arrives as an experience for us. So in this way, we have 3 centers of intelligence. Yeah, we have a head center, yeah, that is connected to the neocortex and the prefrontal cortex. And what it gives us is a certain amount of mental understanding, knowing, clarity, ideas, beliefs, and in the best sense, it will give us access to that mindful way in which we can be open and receptive to the reality as it actually is. And for the heart center, this is all giving us information about and also being aware of the relational field through the connection that we feel between ourselves and other beings, even other objects, alive or inanimate objects. Yeah, what is my relationship to this mountain? Yeah, this mountain means this to me. It gives me nourishment, for instance. Yeah, so it's not just people. However, the people contact is most important for our health and well-being emotionally, to know that our heart beats as one. And we can feel and sense then when we co-regulate with other people through attunement. Yeah, and then an experience of intimacy, of feeling really close to somebody. Yeah, that's also part of the heart center. And of course, as a wisdom quality, compassion that we're all hardwired with when we come into this world and never really, lose as long as we're alive, is that we all have access to compassion. And then in the body center, yeah, and this is the heart center is connected to the limbic system. Yeah, that's tracked in the brain and the limbic system. And also it is processed there. Now, the body center is about grounding, belonging, boundaries, defense system, and instincts. Now, this is where the kind of sense of well-being is being experienced, or the sense of threat. Yeah, so we need that both the grounded presence is happening when you have all your faculties of the physical sensate reality. If you're fully connected to it, you get into a state where you're grounded and present, and there is not so much of a sense of past or future. You're just being here in the present moment. This center also gives us a sense of belonging. And, human beings as a species, they need to be operating in clans in order to feel stronger than they actually are. Yeah, so the clans coming together is really important to have that as a sense of I am here and I belong here. Boundaries, having a sense of boundaries with things that are either, threatening, or they have a potential threat connected to it. And so for us to have access to healthy boundaries is very important for our general sense of development. And then the defense system is, of course, a big thing, which is a whole teaching in itself. And then each 9 types has their own defense system, and I work with that a lot. And then we have the instincts. The instincts not as in subtypes. I see them as 2 different things. I see instincts being the reflexes that are implicit ways in which the body will act and react when you're either under threat, or when you are when you get these hunger signals for having to get yourself nourished in any way. Yeah, so very important difference from how I see instincts as subtypes. To me, those are not 2 synonymous things. To me, subtype subtype behaviors are adaptive strategies to siphon off an overwhelming amount of energy into some sense of being drawn to certain actions that will help us regulate ourselves. So here you see the law of three, not only in the three centers, but here's the law of three in, the three rays of creation. Yeah, so our life as it is, our body, everything that has been created is created by the law of three. Yet, as human beings, having kind of gotten sort of in a dominant way situated in our neocortex, as we over celebrating the neocortex in the West and in the quote unquote civilized, which is not very civilized, but okay, that's how they call it, societies, they have become disjointed and very partial in how we are going to place our attention and what our environments expect from us. Yeah. So the important thing is for you to know that the three centers and the three rays of creation is actually through the neocortex being broken up into two opposing dualistic aspects of our lives that we have to feel that we choose between. And these two opposing parts are reflected in the affirming and the denying forces. And the reconciling force that connects the affirming and the denying together is gone way into the background. And the only thing that we can see is what I want and what I don't want, what I need and what I don't need. Yeah, it's, am I good or am I bad? Am I smart or am I dumb? There's no middle space there. Yeah. And that middle point, that middle creative tension is not being experienced in most of us, even though our body could not function without the law of three. And our body itself, having worked with people in bodies for 45 years now, it's very clear to me that I can trust the body to be a self-correcting mechanism if we get out of the way. But that's not so easy, yeah, with the way that we had to develop and what we became identified with. So we've become more identified with a dualistic view of reality. Yeah, so in the Enneagram, we call that, we need to get rid of receptivity because we need to need to get rid of reactivity. We need to become receptive again. No, we need both. Yeah, we need both aspects in order for us to be able to feel and sense some sense of integration. Yeah, and why is reactivity and the denying force being seen as something we want to get rid of is because it doesn't feel as good in our bodies. It usually comes with a certain amount of force and activation that makes us do things in order to save ourselves or protect ourselves or get what it is that we need so that we can survive, and there is the receptivity that comes when that isn't necessary in the moment. Yeah. So integration can only happen if you understand that we do need both of them. Neurobiology, how it works is what you're attracted to and what you averted away from. And you see there is a lot going on now in the somatic description of Jacques Pensep, who came up with, attraction and aversion in the way of how we survive in the world. And it is a neurobiology that is being seen as a effective meaning it is involving the limbic system. Yeah, and it's effective neuroscience. If you just go pure back to the reptilian aspect of our brain, something very different is going on. Yeah, so, and I will point that out later. Somatic practice, expansion and contraction and calibration. Now, why is this important? Because we can sense expansion. We can sense contraction in our bodies. We can also sense when our nervous system calibrates and it begins to regulate itself. Yeah, those are sensations that will communicate to us in what kind of a state we are in. And therefore, it is so important, yeah, to create this felt sense language. Yeah, so here we have the Frosty. And the Frosty was here, not in the way that was that the words in the middle weren't there. But what was there was the fixation and the holy ideas and the vice and the passion and the virtues. And then in the bottom center, there was just the instinct and subtypes in the middle. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would there be these divisions here, and on the bottom there's no division? That doesn't make any sense, right? And then I realized, by having studied, already Peter Levine and the other ways in which I had done somatic practices in the body with people and was taught by it, that the defensive reflexes that are connected with a life force that contracts and propels you into action, mobilizes your physical body in order to save yourself. Yeah, our fight, flight, and freeze, collapse. Those are life-saving and life-protecting, aversive movements that are happening instinctually, and they enlist in a nanosecond. Now, what happens in the human animal is that we have these impulses, but because we have a neocortex and we're learning what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, these impulses are being inhibited. They're being interrupted. They're being pushed into the background. Because after all, you can't just keep running away when you feel afraid, right? Because then you leave the clan, you leave the relationship, and you're also being labeled as a coward. Yeah. And then when you are exhibiting a fight reflex and you want to set up a boundary, no, don't come any further, all of a sudden, you're being called up all kinds of names, or people will actually move away from you as you set a boundary, which is kind of ambiguous for a human being. And you're also, are potentially, finding yourself ostracized. Yeah, because you're not an agreeable human being. So all these things are coming into being in the complexity of the human brain and expression. So and the freeze and the collapse is the last one, which most humans use more of, is because you can kind of stay on the scene, but you're dissociated and you're not really fully connected with who is there, right? And we all can relate to that we're sort of half there listening because we're either not interested or we don't agree and we don't want to speak up and we don't want to interrupt, blah, blah, blah. Depending on your type, you can already see where this is going. Yeah, so the freeze collapse in the animal world is the immobilization response that helps us as a prey, which, by the way, the human is not really that high on the food chain. We have many predators above us, and most of us are not living in areas where these preys are, or these predators are actually functioning in Africa, they're still there. Thank God. In California, they're still there. Yeah, I live on 27 acres and bears and mountain lions, and they're there, you know? So it brings you more in real contact with where you are on the food chain. But from a neocortex perspective, we slowly eradicating all that and putting ourselves in at the top of, you know, civilization, evolution, however you want to call that. So we are confused as human beings, as instinctual beings, we're very confused. And we also now beginning, because we are reflecting on our lives, because we're learning what can be dangerous, we also are developing psychological fears that are actually not congruent with the truth. Yeah, it's not actually going on. But because we have oriented ourselves in a particular way, we are actually predisposed to wanting to push a certain aspect of reality away, and we are attracted to another part of reality. So now we're coming more in Enneagram territory. Yeah, because every type has their aversion in the form what they want to avoid, and every type has their idealization of who they believe they have to be in order to belong, in order to have enough value and to be validated. Yeah. So you see that the fight reflex is connected to the emotion anger, but it's part of the fear system. Yeah, which is interesting because usually we don't see that. If somebody's bigger, if you're bigger than whatever the threat is, you can afford to be angry and just ward off what's coming at you by holding boundaries. Yeah, that's driven by anger. That's driven by the fight reflex. Yeah, this is not what we think of as fighting. We only think of fighting as wars, and we're one of the only species that really wants to completely eradicate, you know, other people. I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's distorted, and it is because the fight reflex is not turned on fully in all people, and it doesn't really allow itself to be expressed in our being. So it becomes, you know, held in, and therefore it can really do weird stuff. It's the same with the flight reflex. And you can see flight is more connected to fear itself, especially if what's coming at you is bigger, but maybe not faster. So fleeing is a good idea. Yeah, because you can save yourself by fleeing. But if what's coming at you is bigger and it's faster, you're in trouble. Yeah. And that's what determines your place on the food chain. Because then you can try to flee. And when the animal is coming, or whatever it is coming closer, you know, you have no other recourse than to just drop dead in front of the animal, which is what you're signaling to the predator. And if you're lucky, they're not super hungry, so they lose the joy of the chase and they will go somewhere else and you survive. So that's the last survival reflex, very important one. It's not meant to be operating 24/7, neither one of those. Yeah, they're only supposed to happen when the danger is actually on the scene. Now, with human beings, we have memories that we have and these memories have created, you know, they're carried forward because the charge of that memory was never released. It's stayed behind in our system. So it broadcasts danger inside of ourselves all the time, and therefore fueling, you know, the awareness and the alertness to a certain degree at all times for that particular situation that you were in, that you're screening for to never be in again. Yeah. So we talked about that before. So, however, if you look at the fight, flight, and freeze in relationship to the centers, you can kind of see that even though we all need all three, that there is a predisposition to each particular, what I would call defensive reflex that we will reach for. And I will explain that to you later. Yeah. So the belly center, where anger can turn to rage, or anger can be expressed as frustration, which is a mentalized anger. When it comes to rage, it's like an anger that is absolutely having to mobilize lots of energy in order to get into action. And of course, the preferred reflex would be fight. Yeah. Here are the people 8, 9, and 1 that fight against, even though it doesn't look like with type 9. Everybody knows a 9 that is dug in their heels. They kind of externally go along to get along, but they have dug in their heels. They're not moving, right? That's anger. I'm being nice, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to go with you for sure. You know, you don't see me, you don't really care about me. You're just pulling me along. I'm going to dig in my heels. For type 1, you see it in the jaw and in all the tightness in the transverse planes, right? There's the anger, fighting against injustice, about bad and all that stuff, you know. Yet it's not being expressed directly. Yeah. So for the head center, it's fear. So there is more of a flight that is taken from running away with the legs to a fear in the belly with a displacement of attention upward to the brain to try to solve it up here. Yeah, so there's an inner flight that happens in 3 different ways, in 5, 6, and 7. Yeah, when they talk about themselves, they usually don't say, I'm afraid. Well, I feel anxious. I feel, not settled. I feel riled up, Maybe that's as much as they will say. I feel anxiety. And then when the emotion is actually being felt and the fear being felt and it turns to terror, that's when the actual flight reflex needs to and wants to express itself until it's completed. Yeah. And the same with the grief in the heart center. It makes sense that the heart center would prefer the freeze reflex, right? Because what would happen to the connection that you would have with another person if you run away? Yeah, you break the connection. And that cannot happen because that's the worst. I will die, the heart people say. Yeah. Or if you are speaking harshly and fighting against them, the other person might walk away. So the freeze response for the heart center is more dominant. Yeah, 2, 3s, and 4s. So distress, being in distress, is something that is the mentalized emotional state, where they say, well, this is very distressing. I'm really upset. I cannot. And, they will try to rationalize it. Then when they actually drop in and they actually touch into their grief and it turns to panic at the loss of contact, it's an overwhelming amount of need to pull somebody back into their spheres. Yeah. Then the freeze and nobody comes, then the freeze reaction is helping us dissociate and not feel the overwhelm of that panic. And we will not be connected, even though we're staying physically in the proximity of somebody else. Yeah. when these reflexes that are contracted and highly mobilizes in the belly begin to relax because the danger has left, the fight reflex moves to play. Now there is the same energy, but not directed, and being free is in exploring and being playful and lustful in a certain amount of trying to explore our territory and get to meet it, just like you did in your breakout groups. In a way, there is a certain amount of, oh, let's share, let's play, let's try this out. It's this wonderful way in which we are discovering our physical world around us. And then when the flight reflex is finished and the prey that was being left and not being eaten, when they come to, they kind of see they're alive and they scurry away and hide under a bush, and then they shake uncontrollably so that the charge is being discharged. That doesn't happen in humans. And if it happens, like after a car accident and your body starts to shake, or if you have given birth, your whole body starts to shake from the release of the instinctual movement that went through you that felt like an earthquake. And yet here you are safe. And now, the animal in the wild will shake until they're done shaking. And then they walk off completely emptied and cleansed. This doesn't happen in humans. Yes, we don't shake. And if we shake, we are trying to control it with our neocortex, which is a bad idea because it will contain the anger or the energy of the flight or the freeze in the system, and nothing can move, which means you are walking around with the overwhelm in your own body. Yeah. So it is also in the freeze and collapse. Yeah. Once the freeze is being contacted and allowed in the field and given permission, and you have enough resourced, part of yourself, it will relax, and it will sometimes also move like, a vibration that kind of moves through your body. And that is good news, not bad news. And you need to let your neocortex know, no, my body is needing to discharge this overwhelm, and I will be healthier for it afterwards. Yeah. So curiosity will come back when the danger is over after you have been fleeing away. But the curiosity will draw you back to wherever you came from in order to reconnect with the people there and reconnect with, your life as you knew it. And the kids have gone back to playing, and you can sort of be curious to see if there is a place for you back into the fold, whatever it is, right? So curiosity and exploration of possibilities is the nurturing instinct. And when the freeze and collapse, is being relaxed, instead of being dissociated and being there, but not really able to receive the contact, once that freeze is discharged, the automatic seeking and the reach reflex will come back into the field. Yeah, you see actual people that are really lonely. They go to try all these contacts, but they can't receive. Yeah, so they feel lonely even though they're in a group, lonely even though they're in a relationship, and so on, right? So this is important to work with, to have that discharge happen and have the freeze melt into the collapse, and letting your body move through the complete the whole cycle, so that the natural seeking and care, seeking, looking for care and extending care, and that giving and receiving is being reestablished. Okay, so I want to stop it right here and see if there's any questions, any comments, any wonderings, any recognition of what I was talking about. Any recognition of this, or is it very foreign? Yeah? Okay. Ingrid.
Yeah, I found it interesting that panic showed up with grief. I've always thought that, you know, you think about the panic of loss, interpersonal loss, and often people associate panic with anxiety, but I think it's actually right. The way you put it there makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit more about that.
So panic, if you look at it, when people are panicking, they're looking for somebody to rescue them. They're looking for somebody to support them. And they can't find anything, and they are in a very difficult situation that they're not sure of that they can survive by themselves. Yeah, when it's terror, it's different. Yeah, when it's terror, there is no sense of needing anybody or anything else. It is the terror of, I am a little tiny human being, and in the next minute, I'm going to be swallowed up by something in my environment that is going to annihilate me. There is no sense of that reaching out, because it is between you and what is coming at you. That's the relationship that you see. But when mother leaves the child and it's attempting to not really cater to the child when it's crying, right? And it's just leaving it alone, and it's not answering to the crying. You can hear in the type of crying what is going to happen. At first, it's kind of like, oh, you know, I want somebody. Then the crying becomes louder. And then it's to the point to where they can barely breathe, and they have an actual close to panic attack. Yeah. And you will see the child kind of doing all that, those big motions. And that is the fear of the losing of the point of nourishment that they know they need in order to keep going in life. And that, yes, it does play out into interpersonal relationships. Yeah, and it does function there. So I think the terror is more in the head, to where we are just more like that. Here, it's like wanting to reach for something, and there's nothing there. Yeah, that's how I see it. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question around belonging in the body center, and you spoke about clans and you know, this need to belong. Can you say more about that in belonging in the body center? And for me, it also kind of, I know that you know, some people say that the social instinct is about needing to belong. But yeah, can you say more about belonging in the body center?
Yeah, it is it's more connected to the social instinct, but it's also connected to all of, see, this is why I don't want to even go there, because it's not just body-centered people that are feeling this. We all have a belly center, no matter what type you are. Even if you don't lead with it, it belongs to the belly, needing to belong to the clan or to the group. From a food chain point of view, knowing that if I'm not part of the clan and I'm by myself, I am at risk and much more vulnerable to attack. Yeah, so it's very different from the social instinct, even though that is an aspect of it. Yeah. So I feel the body-centered intelligence of knowing that we as human beings need a clan, but we also need the one-to-one connection, and we also need the internal organization of self-pres, of knowing how to take care of myself. Yeah, we need all three of them.
Thank you.
So that's how I would classify it, but it's a good comment to make. And I'm currently trying to write up how the system, in as I've described in the belly, how that is underlying the need to have the adaptive strategies and where we're going to put it. You know, are we going to put it in extremely withdrawing and only take care of myself? Are we going to put it into, you know, the one-to-one relationship and get really close to somebody else? Or are we going to put it more in the direction of, you know, being part of the clan? The way I learned the instincts is that we all have all three of them. They are not like your Enneagram type. They can shift and change according to what is going on.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not a social instinct at, you know, from the get-go. I'm more of a one-to-one. And yet what's happening in the United States, I'm much more vocal in my community and much more socially working this, because the writings are on the wall that this is a danger to this country at large, right? So my social instinct is heightened, even though I don't lead with it. And I don't believe in the stackings and any of that, because I think it's much more dynamic. It's much more flexible than you can say, oh, I'm a sexual instinct. Yeah, you have an inclination, but to me, it's much more environmentally and life situational informed that we do go. When you have a breakup, your one-to-one instinct is really ripped apart, right? Even though you might not lead with a sexual instinct. Yeah, and then the self-pres comes up. Oh my God, now I'm all by myself. I have to take care of myself. There's nobody right next to me. Yeah. So I hold it much more fluid than most people are trying to label it. And that's how I learned it. And it makes more sense to me from a belly-centered point of view, that those are adaptive strategy to discharge the excess energy. Yeah.
Right.
And it has a function. If you are in this situation and you're sexual subtype, I mean, and now they call it sexual blind, and it's like, well, I'm not sure. Is it blind or is it just unpracticed? Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a bigger discussion, and there's so many different ways of looking at this. And I'm not saying I'm right and they are wrong. It's just I feel that this is more what is going on underlying in the inside in your belly center that actually creates the split between good or bad, and makes the third force go into the background, and to the point to where we don't even experience it's there any longer. Yeah.
I'm so tempted to say, my phone's trying to listen to me. I'm so tempted to ask you to go on a big detour into discussion of the blind instinct, because we've explored it here before. But maybe you can come back and speak about that another time.
Yeah, maybe when we do the defense systems, we can do something like that. We can do on the defense system. This is just sort of the intro. Yeah, thank you for that. I'm happy to be in discussion anytime. It's a good discussion to have.
Thank you. So how would you like to go forward, Marion? Would you like to carry on presenting, or what is the next?
Well, we have only, 40 more minutes. So let's ask the group what they want. Yeah, I can present more, but I could also instead demonstrate how I work with a person of, say, the body center, the heart center, and the head center, and give it, just a 5 or 10 minute, sample.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Anybody prefer PowerPoint to a live demo? Yes, please. Thanks,
Okay.
Mary.
So, anybody who belongs to the body center, who wants to experience a little facilitation.
I saw Catherine go like this, but she wasn't sure.
Catherine.
Come on, Catherine.
You can do it. Catherine
No,
doesn't like to be in the spotlight. Do we even have any other body center people in the room? Who else? Isabel?
Yeah, Isabel, I just want you to know whatever happens is all up to you. I'm meeting you where you are. Have no agenda. I just would like you to explore a little bit what happens inside of you as a body type.
If
And
there are no other body types, then I'll try.
Well,
okay.
we do have Isabel, Catherine, but I think
Oh, okay.
you can do it.
Whoever.
Barbie. No, let's go with you. You put your hand up instinctively before you could
No,
stop. Your body
no,
did.
I was being obedient. I was being asked if we are body type, and so I was just being
Being
obedient.
obedient. Okay. So what type does that make you?
A screwed up type. No, so I'm a 9.
Yeah.
Well, I resonate with 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is an obedient body type
Mm.
initially, right? Until it isn't.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm.
Okay. So, the best way, if you're okay with it, for you to, bring something to the table that maybe you noticed that made you reactive, and use an example, a recent example of that. As a 9, something that stirred you up.
Oh, I don't know. So okay, so there is a gentleman. It's 10 years now, and I've had enough because it just sits, and I don't know. Sits in my solar plexus and in my stomach. And I don't know how to release. I don't know if this is what you're asking for.
Sure.
But I don't know how to just release the pain and the narrative that it's just so obsessive.
Yeah. Well, Claudio Naranjo called the body types the obsessives. So yes, it's obsessive. We have a tendency to obsessive. And we like to repeat what have done before. We like to stay on the train tracks. It makes us kind of feel a little bit safer. Yes. I'm a body type 2. I lead with type 8. But I have a 9 wing, so I can relate. Yeah. So the important thing for me to know is the relationship still happening?
No.
Okay.
I ended it because I was scared he didn't want it. So I jumped in first, like I have continually on and off for the last 10 years.
So you felt it was more one-sided?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So good for you. You chased after it and you ended it. Yes?
But then when what he wrote back, yeah, but it's just just how I would react to this instant thing that I'm not worth it, and I'm, and why can't I have why can't I have him, because he ticks so many boxes. But then the obsession makes you just forget all the things that I actually didn't really like. But and then the conflict comes. Is it because I didn't like it because it would hurt me? Or is it because yeah, it's just, I can't handle this obsessive and this pain that sits in my solar plexus 24 hours. It drives me insane.
Yeah. Well, where I'm sitting, I see you being very sane in how you're talking about it and what you know about it. Yeah. But I understand the intensity that you feel inside is being not tolerable and not sustainable. Yeah. Is that true?
Yeah. I've had this feeling though since I was 9 years old.
Interesting.
That same sort of feeling.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's
So,
just got really intense now.
yeah. So how would it be to just take a moment and just allow that feeling to be there, since it is there, and just notice that your breath is completing itself.
I just want to interrupt this whole thing, because I'm told that you must sit with the feeling. Okay, so before I would have run and I would have made sure that I was with friends, or that I was going out, or I was doing something, and I've just, sure, it's been almost 3 years, that I've gone now the opposite. So I've isolated.
Mm-hmm. So right
So
now,
when they say go with the feeling, I don't know. I mean, when you sit there, then I can tell a narrative that can make this feeling feel like it's going to stop me from breathing.
yes.
So
Yeah.
then what do you do? Do you just sit with that, or do you just
No.
start putting things into perspective?
Well, let's look at this. This is a really good observation you're making, that there's a part of you that is finding out that you can't be with it. Because when you're with it and you place all your attention there, it becomes bigger.
Because I've
Yeah.
had it my whole life.
Yeah. So is that true, what I'm saying? That it becomes bigger, stronger when you place your attention there?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So
But then
just,
there's also, there's also the flip side
yeah.
that I can see that it's not, some of it's not true. So I can see where it's come from.
Sure. But that doesn't help the feeling.
No.
No. So can you stay with the feeling? This is interesting. Yeah, because you're body type, but you are very defended against your own sensations of your own being. Yeah, because your habit is to numb out and merge over there. Yeah, erasing yourself. So to come in and feel what the sensations that are there is a big ask for the 9. Yeah. So I would suggest, from what you were just sharing with me, that it may be better for you to first put the attention on where the breath is flowing freely inside of you.
It just gets stuck. Yeah.
So notice if that's true, because you're not turning blue, right? So there's places inside where the breath is moving. Even if it's in your throat, even if it's in your chest or somewhere in your belly, wherever it is, I'd like you to find the open spaces, not the ones that are occupied with that pain. Yeah, I can see you breathing. Where do you feel your breath? Where's the movement that you can feel?
It's everywhere. It's in my arms and my legs, and it's just, I suppose it's almost going around
Yes.
the stuck part.
Yes, absolutely. Breath flows naturally around the obstacles. So if you follow the breath into the open spaces, you're not breathing into the pain, but you're making space for the pain by not paying attention to it, but making space for it.
Okay.
Yeah? So
Yeah,
how does
because
that?
I can still, yeah. So I still feel it. It's not as intense.
Yeah.
But then it's is that sitting with the feeling?
Well,
Is that not avoiding it?
Are you avoiding it?
I don't want to avoid it, but it just feels
No,
so.
but are you? I'm asking you to look inside.
Oh.
Avoiding it, or are you noticing it but you're not feeling it intensely?
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm noticing it, not as intense.
Yeah, so that is a better way to approach it.
Okay.
Than putting all your attention there, because there is such thing as energy follows attention. So if all your attention is on that part with the intention to get rid of it, this part is not going to feel validated, and it is here for a reason. So if you don't feel worthy and you're beating up the part that doesn't feel worthy, how's that going to feel? Doesn't make any sense, right? No. So see if you can go back to the breath and where it's flowing freely everywhere, in your arms, in your fingers, maybe even in your legs, and it's flowing around. But you're staying with your attention on the flow of your breath.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you notice now?
So it makes it easier to look at the pain.
Yes. So now you have the space that's open within you, and you can, as the breath flows around it, you can almost feel the shape and the form and how much space it takes up of the pain. Just notice how much space the pain takes up and how much space the open spaces are.
The open spaces far outweigh the size of it.
Right. So how's that feel?
Yeah, much better.
Much better. So notice that your nervous system is relaxing. Because this is equally true, right?
Yes.
And equally true And knowing how to place your attention is how you can learn to sit with it. But not put your attention on it or in it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
if I'm putting my attention elsewhere, is that
Not
still
elsewhere, in the open space.
just in open spaces?
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, because the breath already knows where to find them. You do not have to guess it. Your breath has its own intelligence. And it does not try to push out the pain. It just simply flows around it, just like a boulder in a river. Yeah.
Will that be like that forever?
No, this is the beginning. This is the approach. So now you feel a little bit less intensity there. And as your breath flows around it and you're looking at that shape and the form, can you tell me a little bit about the shape and the form? What form does it have? What consistency does it have?
Round and it's dense.
Yeah. So notice that.
And dark.
And it's dense and it's dark,
Dark.
and the breath is flowing around it.
The breath shining its torch on it.
Yes, exactly. So as it shines its light or torch on it, and it kind of caresses the outside of the dense round shape. Feel the contact boundary between the breath, almost caressing the shape and the form. Making contact without trying to overthrow it.
Okay. Bye.
How does that
Sure.
feel?
It feels nurturing.
Nurturing, yes. So notice the nurturing and receive that. Breathe into the nurturing that's available to you inside. Yeah, and now you're not beating it up, trying to get rid of it, because there's something precious to be discovered here.
I know when you started off with James.
Yeah, he's a friend.
Okay. How do you find so if I just sit with that, will the next sort of thing where I can find what it is I'm supposed to
Can you stay in the present moment rather than thinking about the next?
Okay.
And receive the nurturing. Yeah, it's already here for you. Yeah, and now as you are feeling that nurturing surrounding that round form, what do you notice in the round form?
Is it not small?
There's almost like a halo around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not so dark.
Right. So notice something is already shifting and changing without you trying to change it.
But at the beginning, something shifted when you were telling us about the breath. Something I could feel shifted.
Yes. And now it's shifting again as you are keeping your breath and your attention on your breath. And you're observing the shifting of the round density that is now becoming lighter. Yeah? So how does that feel when you receive that lighter quality?
It feels great, but I can also feel the resistance to accept it.
Yeah.
And also my panic that I'm taking up everyone's time with my stuff.
So first of all, yeah, it's important for you to see that your mind wants to come back in and not making you feel like you're worthy to receive this. Yeah, that's just a part of you that believes that you're not worthy. And just notice that for me and for the people here, you are a treasure to observe and for us to be able to see your shifting and your changing as we speak. And you matter.
Thank you.
Welcome. Let the feeling happen. Let the tears come. It's okay. This is part of, contacting yourself, sweetie. That is a gift to others.
Only this group can do this to me. Well,
Yeah.
make it safe enough for me. I don't know
Yeah.
where the tears are coming from, but
No, it doesn't matter. Just let them flow, because how does it feel? What is the sensation of letting your tears flow right now?
yeah, it is a huge release.
Yeah. So just go with the release.
Okay.
Yeah, just give that to yourself.
Okay. Please, someone. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We're not quite done here.
No,
Okay? Not quite done.
time's
No,
running
well,
out.
seriously, because otherwise you're not going to really fully get where you have come to right now. I want you to go back to that little part of you where the density was, and see what you see now. How does it feel now when the breath flows around it?
It's much smaller.
Yeah.
Not so dense.
Right.
Yeah, and huge nurturing.
Yeah. So beautiful, right? I mean, by not putting all your attention there and breathing around it, you're actually seeing the shifting and the changing because you're receiving this part of yourself fully. Yeah? You're not kicking at it.
Mm.
So now, in that smaller, round space that's lighter and not so heavy and dense, right? If that part of you had a voice and you would be willing to receive it, what would it say to you?
Yeah, it would tell me that that it was a distorted perception that I had, and yeah, that I do make an impact, or that I do matter.
Yes. So receive those words. You matter.
Mm.
I'm here because you matter. And who wants to get rid of that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So just breathe into those words and receive those words deeply. How does that feel?
Taken me a long time and many, many years to start being open to all of this. So
Yeah. Well, welcome
thank
to
you.
yourself, sweetie. Welcome home to yourself.
Sure, it's a long time.
Yeah. Long time. And you're here now.
Mm.
Yeah. In this moment. Yeah. So
Thank
thank
you,
you.
everyone. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Renate.
We love you
Yeah.
so much, Catherine.
Oh,
Thank you for that was a magnificent and beautiful.
thank you. I'm going to receive that and not think that, yeah, just being told because shame. So I'm going to
Yeah.
receive it.
So when the shame and the thoughts come, just
Yes.
acknowledge them, don't fight them, and just
Okay.
choose to return to the sensation and the words you matter coming from that place. Yeah. So don't fight anything. Just say, oh,
Mm.
thoughts. Oh, yeah, this is familiar. And right now I want to be here. So good for you to choose that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So who of the heart center or the head center might want to have a little try in just getting a taste of what it means to learn to be inside of yourself? Yes. Charmaine?
It's
Charming.
Charmian.
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 Wow, beautiful name. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. I'm a 7.
Okay, wonderful. So welcome to, this particular method. And if you can find a recent place to where you got triggered or you became reactive or upset, and you have an example, what would you want to share with us?
Yes, so I have an example of my partner and going on holiday together, and the plan was we were going to go to Marrakesh, but then the hotel was cancelled. So he rebooked something without asking me, and suddenly we were going to a different place and a different hotel, and I wasn't consulted, and it made me very angry at him, and I couldn't let it go, and it kind of ruined the holiday because it wasn't what he promised or what he thought it was going to be like, and there was just this resentment the whole time, and I just couldn't let it go. That it was just, I was so angry that he did all this, and he did it with the best of intentions, but I felt I should have been consulted before he just rebooked everything to a different place and a different hotel. And he just meant it well, but I couldn't see it that way. And I still can't really, it's just something, yeah.
Still can't let it go.
Couldn't let it go. I was just, because he never really apologized for doing this without asking me, because he thought, and he said that I was just being really negative on the holiday. And I'm like, it's because you didn't ask me. So there was a lot of tension in the relationship because of the two different perspectives.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does that feel as you're talking about it?
Well, I love him very much, and the relationship is so much more important than that issue.
Yeah, beautiful. So what do you notice inside as you're talking about it?
That there's a mixture, like what you said about, so on the one side, there's the anger because I wanted to be consulted. And that's for me a partnership that he should have said, oh, the hotel's cancelled. And so there's still that anger.
So where do you feel that?
In my stomach.
Yeah,
in
where
my
where
core.
in your stomach?
Just further down in my in my stomach.
Lower belly, upper belly, where do you
Upper
feel?
belly.
Upper belly. In the diaphragm place, like solar plexus?
Yeah,
or-
solar plexus, yeah. Like a constriction there, like an anger, like a solar plexus, yeah.
Yeah. So just notice that.
Okay.
Yeah, just go inside and just see if you can notice how much space that anger in your solar plexus takes up.
Yeah, it's like a ball of fire.
Yeah.
It's compact. It's like it's interesting because I see the solar plexus like a sun, and
Uh-huh.
and I see it, but it's like a burning ball of fire, and it's my anger.
So how big is it in there? Ball
It's
of fire.
pretty big. Like it's taking up a lot of space.
Yeah. All the way from front to the back?
Yes.
All the
Yeah.
way from the left to the right?
Not quite, but almost. Like, yeah. A little bit of room on either side. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So how is it for you to be with that? But the space on either side.
I'm glad there's a bit of space because, to be honest, it's taking up too much room and it's making me feel a bit sick. I seem to have this anger in here and I want to release it. So I'm glad there's a bit of space on either side.
Yeah, so it's nice to notice, right? That it's not taking up all of your solar plexus. You have space on either side where your breath can flow.
Yes, yes, I can. Yes.
So just follow that breath down there on either side.
It's very soothing,
Yeah,
like that breath flow on either side.
yes. So just receive that soothing.
Yeah, it's very good.
Stay with it if you can. And let yourself be soothed. And what do you notice now?
That I'm much calmer.
Yeah,
Soothing is very good for me.
yeah.
And I really don't want to be angry all the time. I'm angry quite a lot at him, and the love at the flowing of the breath feels very good.
Yeah, so notice that.
Yeah.
That you in the moment can shift your attention from the ball of fire to the spaces that are open, letting your breath flow there, and it's soothing.
Yes.
You know, you can do this shifting of attention and nobody knows you're doing it. Except for you receiving the regulation, the down regulation of your nervous system. Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Helpful.
So what do you notice now about the anger and the space that it's taking up?
That it's smaller and that I can manage it rather than it managing me. And
But
I'm
we don't
grateful.
want
Yeah.
we don't want to manage it, right? Because this ball of fire is actually a very vital part of you. So we don't want to just manage it so that we're done now. We're out of the water and we're in a better place. So let's forget about the rest, right? This will be type 7, right? But this is the beginning of your practice. This ball of fire is the convertible energy. Yeah, it's from a spiritual point of view.
It's what.
So would you be willing to just allow it to be there in a smaller version, feeling more space, maybe even a little bit in front and in back, as well as on the sides? Be very precise. inside. And notice where the breath can flow now.
Yeah, because what's coming to me is that it's not just anger, it's who I am, right? It's that energy as well. So if I just try and manage it and get rid of it, I also lose that fire, that enthusiasm.
Right. We need the fire. We need the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good, it's a good description. Yeah. So how is it now to breathe around it and see that smaller fire?
Well, I'm accepting it more as something that's both, you know, that can be good.
Yeah. And
Fire is, you know, it was anger, but now I see it more as energy.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just become curious about the anger energy, the energy that can turn to anger.
Yes.
And if it had a voice about what it's trying to do for you, what would it say to you?
It's trying to protect me. Because sometimes I feel that this man is so charming and strong and almost overwhelming me that I lose myself and that he takes over everything.
Ah,
So it's almost like standing up for myself,
yeah.
melting into whatever he wants all the time.
So advocating for you.
Yes.
So just notice that.
Yes.
And just see that. I'm advocating for you.
Yes. Yes.
For who you are, what you bring
Yes.
to the table.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
That
I've
feel to
noticed I've been doing that. It's a relatively new relationship, about a year and a half, and I've had to kind of stand up for myself because he's so powerful and because he's so charismatic, and you know, and I don't want to lose who I am and everything I've built up. So
yeah.
there's that fire to advocate, as you say, advocate for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens inside with that ball of fire when you are receiving the words of it to you and breathe?
Strength. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
can
like there's instead of a ball of fire, it's turned into this kind of strength, like this rod or something, like keeping me on the straight, like who I am, rather than just melting away.
yeah. So notice that it has become more vertical
More vertical, exactly.
in the core. So notice that. How does it feel to look at that rod in the middle?
I really like it. I really like it.
Yeah. So just breathe into what you like about it. Breathe into and receive it energetically.
Yeah, I feel like there's a stake in the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so notice that this rod all the way goes down to the ground.
Yes.
Feel that.
Yeah, a bit like in the meditation that we did at the beginning, you know, like this. I've got my feet solidly on the ground and I'm reaching up to, I like reaching up Father Sky, so Mother Earth and Father Sky, and being in that vertical place.
Yeah, but really feel that stake in the ground through the feet, touching the ground and feeling that deep connection with the ground. And from this place that you are right now, what would you like to say to him?
That I love him and that I understand his best intentions and his desire for us to be one unit, like one. He's very much about this deepening connection.
Mhm.
And I appreciate all of that, but at the same time, I want to feel this rod, this strength, this who I am.
Yeah, so feel it right now.
Yeah.
Feel it right now. And from that place, how would you communicate that to him about who you are in the relationship next to him?
That I'm also strong, loving, compassionate, and equal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does that feel?
Really good.
Yeah, so breathe into that, at least 3 breaths. It takes 11 seconds for the rewiring to happen. It's a challenge for a 7. You go fast, usually a little too fast. So take your time, breathe into it, receive this state. Yeah, how's that?
Great. You
Yeah.
know, to feel okay with my strength and my passion.
Mhm.
Realize that the anger is an advocate, and that it's okay for me to be strong and equal in this partnership.
Yeah. Not only that, you can't be one until you're equally present next to him.
Yes. Yes.
You can also say that. Unless I have an equal presence and say, we can't be one.
Right. Right. Equal presence and say, we can't be one. Yeah.
Yeah. But you need to
Love
take
it.
up that space so that he
Yes.
can feel you there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's so powerful.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing work. Thank you so much. You're an amazing coach.
I'm not sure what I am, but I love just accompanying people in discovering all these mysterious aspects of ourselves that we normally don't take the time to get into. So thank
Oh,
you for
very
being
powerful.
willing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate what you just did. It's wonderful.
So
Very,
we didn't have time, sorry, for the heart triad, but maybe we can do this another time.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charmy. Thank you, Marion. That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So
thank you, Marion. I think we all got the benefit just flowing along with the process inside ourselves as well.
yeah,
The principle of not trying to get rid of a difficult feeling. It's really beautiful. Thank you.
I call it radical inclusion in order to become whole. Yeah.
Very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for inviting me and letting me feel and sense your community. It's beautiful to witness all of you. And I was very grateful to be here. Thank you.
We're very grateful to have you. Thank you so much, Marion, and thanks everybody for coming.
Mhm.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Good to see you.
Have a beautiful rest of your evening.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks Renate voor
Het was
inviting.
geweldig, Marion. Het was
Haha, leuk. Ik ben blij dat je
Geweldig.
Nederlands spreekt.
Geweldig. We
Dankjewel.
understand that in South Africa.
Yeah. Much love. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Love.